What a whirlwind it has been these last couple days in regards to finding the 49ers' next defensive coordinator. But as we know, feels like we are getting closer to finding clarity in regard to that situation. But it also means there might be some coaches that are on the outside looking in when it's all said and done. So we're going to talk about that. We have a bit of an update from Matt Mayoko, who has been doing a phenomenal job kind of presenting a bunch of updates for what's going on internally with the San Francisco 49ers. And we will kind of cover and do a little bit of a recap as we are waiting for the official report to drop that Robert Saleh will be the 49ers' next defensive coordinator. It is absolutely believed that he is going to be that guy, but it just hasn't officially come out yet. So we are in a bit of a waiting pattern. But let's talk about the news that we heard from Miyoko this morning, and we'll get into it all. But you guys already know what to do. Smash that like button, drop an SDS in the chat, and let's get into all things 49ers right now. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see it. Man, top of the morning to you guys. We've been going live quite a bit as of late just because there has been so much going on surrounding not only the 49ers defensive coordinator search, but everything across the league. It has been, I don't even know. Like, not only have we had like a phenomenal playoff slate, I get it, 49ers aren't in, but we've had some really good playoff games. The offseason stuff is even still just doing numbers in regards to interest and just really wanting to understand like what the future holds specifically for us and the San Francisco 49ers. But I want to talk about it because Matt Mayoko on his YouTube channel today, if you haven't subbed, go sub to Maddie's channel. He was kind of talking about all the different things. And of course, with the 49ers, our big thing right now is getting Robert Saleh back into the building. Hopefully, maybe. I see Max. He says, it's official. Saleh is back. Parentheses, maybe every 49ers channel. Hey, man. Niner Faithful says Robert Saleh in. Maybe. What's good, Jesse? Michael says, Brad, love the Lombardi stream yesterday. Shout out to Lombardi. We had a little impromptu stream yesterday with a bunch of the news dropping. Shout out Lombardi. Appreciate everyone who checked in on that one. But yeah, absolutely. It's been an interesting situation. I talked about it on a video earlier today. I'm not sure I have seen so many reports surrounded the word expected. You know, I've been doing this for a while now. I don't want to age myself too much, but I see pretty much every tweet and report that comes out from all these newsbreakers. And it has been fascinating to see the word expected and how it has been used. Because even as we sit today, right now, it is 10:16 in the morning here on the West Coast on Friday, January 24th. We still don't have official word that Liam Cohn has actually signed the agreement to be the Jacksonville Jaguars' next head coach. Now, it's been reported that he's expected to sign, barring any snags in the final language. They've agreed verbally. It's probably been reported 15 times over that Liam is expected to be the Jags' next head coach, and then worded in so many different ways, but the word continues to be used, is expected. And so as a result of that, the same thing applies to Robert Saleh. He's expected to be the 49ers' next DC as long as the 49ers, I should say, Robert Saleh doesn't gain interest from any other head coaching jobs. And as we know, just today, we have an official report. Pete Carroll was hired as the Raiders' new head coach. Honestly, I don't hate the move. I'm just kind of surprised by it. I know Tom Brady has been involved as a minority owner in that search. Um, and I do think it's an interesting situation um, with how that all came about. But hey, good for Pete Carroll. We were talking about him as potentially being a DC candidate if Robert went elsewhere. So, oh, this is interesting. Hold on one second. We just got some news from Adam Schefter. Bobby Slowik is out as Texans offensive coordinator. In the span of a year, Slowik went from being a hot head coaching candidate to now looking for work. Wow, this is interesting. As you guys know, Bobby Slowik came from the San Francisco 49ers coaching staff, went with D'Amico Ryans over there to be the offensive coordinator, and now he finds himself looking for work. As we know, actually, now that I think about it, 49ers haven't officially named their offensive coordinator. I just realized that. Now, as we know, right, from the whole exit interview situation, um, at the end of the year with John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, that they had announced that they were going to elevate, I think it was Clay Kubiak to be the offensive coordinator for the 49ers. But because of certain rules that needed to be met, they had to have an open search for that offensive coordinator position. And so they opened it up. They interviewed some guys, but I don't think they've officially named their offensive coordinator now that I think about it. So does Bobby Slowik find his way back to the San Francisco 49ers? I don't know. That's kind of an interesting thought process. I mean, he could potentially fall back into a pass game coordinator position. I don't know what teams are looking for offensive coordinator at this point, but a former 49ers coach just fired right now in Houston, which is pretty interesting considering the timing of it all. I do know that the Houston Texans recently fired their team president, so I don't know if they're looking to change some things or not, but it doesn't appear that they were too thrilled with how the coach search had went. So definitely a development for today. So that is definitely interesting. So does Slowik make his way back to the 49ers? Wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. But let's talk about some guys that are currently on the staff that might not be here anymore. We heard yesterday from Matt Mayoko that it does appear that the 49ers will be moving on from Nick Sorensen. So at one point, we were of the assumption that Nick Sorensen was actually going to be a front runner for the special teams coordinator job. But according to Matt Mayoko, the 49ers are not expected to retain Nick Sorensen. So Nick Sorensen is out of contention for the 49ers. And as a result of that, we were under the impression like, okay, well, Brandon Staley's still here. Well, hold on. Hold on. This is what Matt
Staley news.
is
Getting
saying. And again, make sure if you can hear Mayoko in the chat, give me a thumbs up. But I want to share directly from Matt Mayoko. This is from his YouTube channel. Make sure you go sub to his channel if you haven't already. But this is what he had to say this morning about the future of Brandon Staley, and then I want to react to it. But let me know that you can hear it in the chat, and we'll get this thing rolling.
Brandon Staley news. I'm getting the impression that Brandon Staley, who was considered the only internal candidate for the 49ers defensive coordinator job, that's what Shanahan said on the Wednesday after the season. I'm hearing that he probably will not be back with the 49ers as basically Robert Saleh comes in and he's going to be, in essence, the head coach of the defense. He's going to run that defense. And so Brandon Staley doesn't appear as if he'll be back with the 49ers. Brandon Staley news.
All right. So as you heard from Mayoko right there, it is not expected that Brandon Staley will return. So that's two. At one point, there was a little bit of nervous feeling that the 49ers were actually going to have Brandon Staley as their DC and Nick Sorensen as their special teams coordinator. Both are now out of the building, not officially, but that word we keep coming back to. They are expected to be out of the building. So Throwback says, are you surprised Brandon Staley won't be back? No, I'm not surprised, especially considering the fact that he was going to be an internal candidate for this particular job. And we knew that. But if you're bringing in Robert Saleh, what's the point here? Of keeping him around, and that's effectively what Matt Mayoko is saying. He's saying that Brandon Staley was kind of, I think, brought in as a consultant to like Nick Sorensen, because they weren't really sure how Nick Sorensen was maybe going to do as a defensive coordinator in his first time role. So they bring in a former head coach, a guy who's been a defensive coordinator, kind of bring those two in at the same time, and they kind of like work it out together. But if Robert Saleh is coming in and he's going to be paired with his old staff, I mean, if he doesn't choose to retain Brandon Staley, it really does not surprise me at all. Because, that's the thing. When you bring in a defensive coordinator like Robert Saleh, I think one of the positives about it is that you hand over the keys to Saleh. You just say, "Here you go, man. Add the staff that you need. Make the implementations to the roster, to your scheme that you want. You understand what we're trying to accomplish here. We're running the 4-3 wide 9 cover 3 shell, and do what you need to do within that. And whether that's adding the staff you need, tell us the players that you want us to obtain to fit your scheme, all of those things." So, no, I'm not surprised at all that Brandon Staley might not return. So I do think that it is a pretty interesting situation, to say the least. But I mean, it really could be a reunion party, like we're talking about. Like, I see it in the chat. People are talking about how Bobby Slowik was just fired from the Houston job as the offensive coordinator over there. Obviously, he came from the San Francisco 49ers coaching staff and went over there with DeMeco Ryans. Media is saying, do you think Saleh tries to bring Joe Woods back because he isn't with the Saints anymore? It seems like that could be it could be bringing the whole gang back together. And let me talk about this for a second, because I think there is a portion of the fan base that is like, why do we keep bringing back these guys? Like, what's the point of a retread? And doing it over again seems redundant, seems like you're taking steps backward. Man, one of the hardest things, at least from my perception of the NFL, is long-lasting continuity. And to be able to build something for a long time is a challenge because the NFL stands for not for long. And so we see churning and burning through rosters, through coaching staffs, through front office executives. Man, like we're seeing it all happen right now. It just get you churn and burn, churn and burn, churn and burn. There is something positive to having continuity within front office, within staff, within roster. And I do think some fans are so like there's a certain percentage of the fan base and all fan bases that say, "Oh, if something's not working, burn it down to the ground and start over." I don't think that is the answer every single time. I do think that if you can rebuild continuity within your scheme, within your roster, that actually can be beneficial because everyone knows how to work together. Everyone understands how it goes. They understand the culture, they understand the expectations and all of those things. So, I don't think it's a bad thing as long as the people within that umbrella keep evolving, keep pushing the limit, keep making sure that they make the proper adjustments. Now, again, you don't want to just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results. But at the same time, if you can have that internal cohesion and make the adjustments, that's a good thing to have, in my opinion. I think continuity within the NFL is scarce, and if you can maintain that, that's a good thing, in my opinion. So I don't have the same negative perception of, oh, we're bringing a retread back or bringing. I mean, I don't think of it that way. I think of it from a standpoint of you're bringing back Robert Saleh, who had a lot of success with the San Francisco 49ers and just went to the toughest media market in the NFL as the head coach. And he survived there for a handful of years. I guarantee you he has learned a ton. And now he's going to be able to fall back into a coordinator role and kind of get back into the lab of cooking it up of with scheme and all of those things. And just probably I think for Sala could absolutely fall back in love with the game of football because you don't have all of the other elements of being a head coach. Being a head coach in the NFL is got to be a crazy job to have because there's so many responsibilities that come along with it and that are outside of just scheming it up about building rosters. There's so much politics that go into it and so many other things that can pull you away and distract you. So I don't think Robert Saleh coming back is a bad thing. I think it's a good thing. And I think it's also a good thing because he knows this team, he knows this staff. I did see that there's only two players that are currently on the roster that were here when he was back in 2019, which were Bosa and Fred Warner. I'm not worried about that. Players change all the time. But I do think it is cool that you do have guys like Ronald Blair in the building as a defensive line coach who also played under Robert Saleh. You also have some continuity with the coaching staff with KJ Wright. I was on stream with Lombardi yesterday, and he had mentioned that there was overlap between those two in Seattle. So I'm less concerned about retreads, rehires, as long as they are guys that have shown the ability to be good. And I think he's done that. So that's why I believe Saleh has been the number one target for the 49ers throughout this whole process. Um, it was funny listening to Matt Mayoko. It's funny now because it feels like it's trending in our direction. But it was interesting listening to Matt Mayoko talk about how there's a little bit of anxiety inside the 49ers building because with all the situation that was playing out with Robert Saleh and how uncertain that situation was becoming, apparently the 49ers backup plans, the B, C, D, E plans, they all got hired. So the 49ers were kind of in a situation where they're like, oh gosh, if we don't get Robert Saleh, what are we going to do? So but again, I don't know what is taking so long right now. Because what time is it? It's like mid-afternoon in Florida right now. They still have yet to announce the official signing of Liam Cohen as the Jaguars head coach. They've announced it every imaginable way, but without saying it's official. But it still hasn't been announced. So it hasn't been announced with the 49ers either. Now, when is Saleh signing? That's a great question. I have no idea. I have no idea. So we'll see. But, behind the scenes, I've heard some positive things. It's not my place to share. But I will say this. Based on what I'm hearing, I feel very optimistic about Robert Saleh being our next defensive coordinator. So I think we're just kind of in a waiting pattern, just like we have been this whole time. So I just think that they're waiting for the dominoes to fall effectively. But I do feel um, he says Brad is optimistic unofficially. Breaking news. Brad from the SF Niners is expected to be optimistic in regards to the 49ers hiring expected future defensive coordinator Robert Saleh, who is expected to take the job within the next 24, maybe 48, maybe 72 hours, maybe within the next week, maybe the next 2 weeks, but it is expected to happen sometime expectedly within the next expected 4 to 28 days. Reportedly, expectedly. Uh, oh my gosh. We should watch NFL prospect highlights. Oh yeah, we'll definitely have some dedicated shows to just watching prospects. That's for sure. I've definitely started my journey of breaking down prospects. I still got a long ways to go, but I'm trying to build up a solid first impression before I get out to the Senior Bowl next week. So um, we'll get there. We'll get there for sure. And if you guys do have any draft things you want to throw in, I'm always uh, excited to talk about that. So, hey, man, Saleh chooses Walter Nolan at 11. I just did a kind of prospect highlight on him yesterday. He's an impressive player. He is a 3-down, 3-tech defensive tackle, stout against the run, has the ability to be a impact pass rusher on the interior, exactly what the 49ers were envisioning when they signed Javon Hargrave. I know a lot. It was funny. I had posted about Walter Nolan to my Instagram page just because we do prospect highlights. And oh my gosh, the responses were, "Oh yeah, the next Javon Kinlaw." It's like, oh my gosh, guys, I get it. You have PTSD. about the 49ers drafting defensive linemen in the first round. This is not the draft to have defensive line PTSD. This is the draft to rebuild your defensive line, and perfectly enough, it aligns with the 49ers' biggest needs. I did a ranking yesterday of what I thought were the 49ers' biggest needs, and my number one biggest positional need is interior defensive tackle. Uh, and to me, it's not up for debate. As it currently stands right now, your starting interior defensive tackle, two interior defensive tackles, are Malik Collins and Jordan Elliott. Both of them, in my opinion, are good to decent players, but they are rotational. They are situational. They are not three down players. They are not anchors of your defensive line. They are good pieces, but they are not, in my opinion, starters. So as it currently stands, the 49ers do not have, in my opinion, starting caliber interior defensive tackles, and that's two of them. So that is a big position of need. Not only is it a big position of need, but it aligns with some of the best prospects in this class. So you got to go both ways, man. You got to go both ways. You can't just bury your head in the sand because the 49ers drafted what is Javon Kinlaw and what's our good friend Solomon Thomas and all of those things. Man, you can't hold the past against future prospects. If you do that, you're going to get in a lot of trouble and you are going to miss out on some really, really, really impactful players. So I'm under the mindset this is a great opportunity for the 49ers to go and re-bolster their defensive line. It was one of the first tweets I put out about this draft season is I said I'm still of the mindset that the 49ers go defensive line early. I thought they should have did that last year. You go defensive line early and you target offensive line second, third, fourth, because this isn't a strong offensive line class. This is a much weaker offensive line class compared to last year. And there really aren't that many like straight up just offensive tackles. Most of the offensive linemen that I'm coming across, they all look like guards. Even Kelvin Banks Jr., a lot of 49er fans love Kelvin Banks Jr. But I'm looking at Kelvin Banks Jr. and I see a guard. I see a guy who reminds me body-wise of Laken Tomlinson and doesn't strike me as a tackle. He probably could play tackle, but I don't think that's where he would see his best ability. He looks like a prototypical guard in the NFL. I don't see the length. I don't see the speed that you need to have with your kick step. I don't think he's a bad player. I just don't necessarily believe he is a lock at offensive tackle. So if he's not an offensive tackle, you can't draft him at 11 unless he's a generational guard. And that's how I'll always see it. I can find you, just like the 49ers proved to you what I have been saying for so long. You can find the best interior offensive linemen in the league in rounds 2 through 4, 2 through 5, like clockwork every single year. So if the 49ers are interested in a center or a guard, do not draft that player at 11. That would be a massive mistake. Just find the right player in rounds 2 through 5. And I guarantee you can find someone like a Dominic Pooney, like a Quinn Miners, who was a third-round draft pick and is now a first-team All-Pro offensive lineman. You can find those guys in the mid-rounds on the interior because they're never going to wow you with their athletic profile. And what is the draft all about? Who has the sexiest athletic profile? No pause. And guess what? Interior offensive linemen got shorter arms, they're wider, they don't move as fast. So they're not viewed in as high a regard as tackles or other positions. So don't reach. Don't reach on an interior offensive lineman unless you truly believe they are a generational prospect like a Quentin Nelson or someone like that. Um, for sure. Um, Justin says, I planted my flag on Utah linebacker Landon Barton at 111. Yes, you have. I have seen the clips, and he definitely is an intriguing prospect. That's for sure. Definitely seems like a guy who would fit into what the 49ers are doing. And hey, 49ers need linebackers. They currently only have 3 on the roster: Fred Warner, D Winters, and Tatum Bethune. So absolutely, um, they need a linebacker in the worst way possible. Um, so we'll see. I mean, just going through the roster, they need they need tight end depth, they need running back depth, they need starting interior defensive tackles, they need edge depth, they need starting linebackers. Potentially, they need a starting cornerback or a starting caliber cornerback and a starting caliber safety. So there's still plenty of holes to fill for the San Francisco 49ers for sure. Black Mass says, what about interior linemen in free agency? The guy that I want them to get is Drew Dahlman. Um, I would much rather, just based on Shanahan's kind of history, I would prefer that they go safe or they go center with a veteran, just because although I've been wanting the 49ers to invest in a young center for a very long time. Um, it just hasn't happened through the draft. Now, like for example, I really wanted Cam Jurgens, the starting center for the Philadelphia Eagles a couple years ago. I really wanted Garrett Bradbury at one point. I really wanted Eric McCoy at one point. All these centers have proven to be some of the top centers in the league. But I just don't know if the 49ers want to have that position be manned by a rookie. So my thought is, all right, if you have money to spend on at minimum one starting caliber free agent, then go get Drew Dahlman. Stanford kid, his dad was a former 49er. He's only 26 years old. He fits the scheme perfectly. Um, he's a little bit undersized, but he moves really well. And that's exactly what you're looking for in a zone center, a guy who can move, a guy who can reach block, a guy who can get to second level. Um, so that's definitely the guy that I would want as an interior offensive lineman, or at least in free agency. Um, Boxing fan says that's what I said. We should look for an O lineman like Pooney, who had multiple starting years in the late rounds. I actually just came across. I started looking into a prospect yesterday that I kind of like the idea at guard. Um, all right, Dan Rossini hinting at more news to come. Okay, I came across this offensive lineman His name is Jonah Sabainae. Again, dude, I'm so bad with pronunciation. It's not even funny. Um, but I can show you a couple clips because I do think it is all 22. So when I was watching this guy, he's really good offensive lineman. I don't know if I necessarily view him as a like a lock at tackle at the next level, but he to me seems like he would be a phenomenal guard. Um, he's maybe not, ultra suited for like an outside zone scheme, but he's got power and he's a phenomenal pass blocker. And I think he's got quick enough feet that you can use him in a zone scheme. Might have to, catch him up to speed a little bit, but I definitely think that this is a guy that you could absolutely potentially plug in at left guard if you wanted to draft him in the second round, maybe if he falls to the third round. Um, but I think he's got a solid base. You can see the power, you can see some of the technical abilities of him. And he's played left tackle, right tackle, guard. He has played all over the offensive line for Arizona, and he just strikes me as a guy that has that versatility, very similar to Dominic Pooney. I wouldn't say he has the same level of movement ability as Dominic Pooney. I would say for sure Pooney's the better mover, but I like what he does in pass protection. I like his technique and I like the power, and I see something there, and he does a great job. You can see the cerebral ability. He's played a lot of ball, so if you can get a guy like that later, that's kind of what I'm looking for the offensive line. So I got a lot more work to do. I just started watching Connerly, I believe, the Oregon left tackle yesterday. Really good feet, moves really, really well. But he seems like he's lacking a little bit of power. But he's got great feet. So it's going to be a really interesting process of getting into all these offensive line prospects. But I'm making my way slowly but surely, getting my first impressions, and then I'm excited to be able to get to the Senior Bowl and see some of these guys up close and personal. Boxing Fan says, and people were saying I was crazy for that take. He was referencing this take of should look for an offensive lineman like Pooney. Absolutely. If you're looking for guard or center, like you don't have to shoot for the stars, in my opinion, of going with the highest caliber of interior. Now, it could be an option to go high. I'm not opposed to that. I don't necessarily think that would occur. Justin says, what about an edge who can kick inside to just bust anchors with all the bull rush and Ashton Chalote? Let me see. I've heard the name. I haven't looked into him. But I agree. I think, when I had posted about my guy Jordan Birch yesterday from Oregon, he was a guy that stood out to me when I was scouting Brandon Dorless last year, and I was like, "Oh, who's this guy?" I was more impressed with Birch than I was Dorless, who was coming out last year. But with him, he has exceptional athletic traits, but he reminds me of a guy who can play inside out. Um, for sure. All right. I'm just doing a quick first impression on this guy that Justin is mentioning. All right. Who is he? What number is he? Justin, what number is he? Is he number 9? Yeah, number 9. Okay. So he seems like okay. I'll pull up this so you can see what I'm seeing instead of just watching me react to it. So this is a guy that Justin has mentioned. So right now this is basically he's playing on an inside shade of the tackle. So this is him right here, number 9. Take a look at this power. This is Notre Dame, if I'm not mistaken. Dude, that's nice. That's intriguing. You see the little stutter to give the illusion of like throwing a inside cross chop, a counter spin, and then he goes straight into speed to power and just pushes 74 right into the quarterback. I mean, I've only seen like 3 clips, but I would say first impression is motor, 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 motor. Um, so this is who Justin is mentioning here, Ashton uh, Galoti. Galoti. I need an assistant to just phonetically spell out names for me because I'm just gonna mispronounce them any other way. But yeah, I see the vision there. That's definitely going to be someone I want to look into a little bit more. He looks like he's got inside out versatility for sure, and that's basically what you're saying. So I'm intrigued by that. Boxing fan thoughts on trading back and getting Tyler Warren. I definitely don't want Tyler Warren at 11, but if for whatever reason the 49ers were to trade back into the mid-teens, maybe late teens, I wouldn't be opposed to it. I think that's where his value lies. I don't look at Tyler Warren. He doesn't strike me as a Brock Bowers type prospect, if that makes sense. Um, Brock Bowers was, I think, a generational tight end prospect. Um, I don't think Tyler Warren is generational. However, I do think Tyler Warren is very, 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 very good. Um, I think if he had another gear to him, he would be considered, I think, in my book, a little bit higher. Um, but again, for me, um, I really only feel intrigued to go Tyler Warren if you're telling me George Kittle isn't going to be around next year or the year after that. That would really be the only motivation for me to go that route. I think he's a great player. I think he would fit perfectly into what the 49ers are trying to do. He would be a phenomenal running mate with George Kittle, but I need a starter, man. I need a starter. I need an interior defensive tackle. I need an edge. You could convince me on corner. Um, I need someone. I need a potential tackle. Like I need one of those positions. And that's no disrespect to Warren. I think Warren's a great player. I think he's a phenomenal player. Um, but if he were generational, like let's say it this would have been the if the 49ers were picking at 11 last year, we're probably banging the table for Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers was crazy. Like I wasn't expecting Brock Bowers to be as good when I flipped on his tape. He was I was like, "Oh, I see the hype." Sometimes like you hear about all the hype and like for me, Kelvin Banks is a perfect example. I didn't watch Kelvin Banks all year, and so all I heard was the hype. He's the best prospect. He's the best offensive line class or in this class. He's borderline generational. So I heard all the hype. And so when I went into the tape, I was expecting that. And that's one of the reasons why I prefer getting into prospects that I have zero perception of, because I went into Kelvin Banks tape expecting a generational prospect, and I saw good offensive lineman. I didn't see a guy that just blew me away, and I was like, I don't even know if he's a tackle. He might be a guard at the next level. So with Bowers, absolutely blew me away. Absolutely, like I was like, oh, I see why the hype is there, and he might even be better than what he was being hyped to be. Um, so, anyways, um, back to the conversation of potentially it being Warren. I wouldn't mind the idea of trading back for Warren. I think I'm personally out on Warren at 11, just because there are so much bigger needs, and I think they're going to be better players available at 11 that fit the need. You always want to go. We always talk about BPA, right? But when BPA meets need, that's a double whammy. So you can't pass on both. You can't pass on BPA that fits a top need. And so if your BPA is a defensive tackle that fits your number one need, then you gotta go defensive tackle. That makes the most sense in every avenue of diagnosing value and what to take at 11. So that's the way that I look at it there. Um, for sure. And I hope we get something like that, but we'll see. What we're seeing right now, and we see it every single year, the way the board is currently set, it's just the beginning. Once we get through the Senior Bowl, I think the Shrine Bowl's this week as well. And then once we get through the combine, the board is going to shift and move a whole bunch from now until the draft. So we'll be patient, and we'll just try to, like, right now, we're just trying to get first impressions, and then we're going to start stacking everyone and see where they're at. But that's kind of where I see it. What about DT back to back just because it's such a stacked class? I mean, that was kind of like the way my mock draft was kind of set up. Was I'm less concerned about like what players going to be available in my mocks. I'm more concerned about like how we could potentially structure positional targets with the draft. And again, if you missed it, this is my mock that I did, my mock 1.0. Um, I'm more concerned, like in this one, I got tackle, edge, defensive tackle. And the reason why it went that way was just based on who was available via the mock draft machine. But in all seriousness, if you come away with a defensive tackle, an edge, and an offensive lineman in the first 3 picks, I don't really care which order it comes in, as long as it follows the same principle of BPA and all of that stuff, and you're taking the best value that fits the need. That's all I care about. So if that's 2 defensive tackles, if it's a D tackle and a D end, if it's a D tackle, D end, O line, I'm fine. But I just want the number one thing to be trenches. Get trenches, rebuild the trenches, and it starts with the defensive line. Um, it really does. It really starts with the interior of that defensive line. And if they can fix that defensive line, everything else will be better for it. And I think the 49ers are in a good spot with their young secondary. If they can add one more impact cornerback and they can figure out what they're going to do on the opposite side of Malik Mustafa, then I think the 49ers will be in good shape. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I do believe the 49ers are going to find themselves in a good spot. And especially once we get through free agency, that's the thing, is we haven't even got into free agency yet. Once we get into free agency, we see the moves that are made. I guarantee you they're going to sign a defensive tackle or two in free agency. Then we will really, really be able to kind of set our boards and really pinpoint what we think, what player fits where. So I'm excited about it. I'm excited about this offseason. I haven't really been excited about kind of the roster construction process for a while, just because we had been at such a spot where it was just kind of retaining who we have. But this is going to be a very important draft, very important free agency for the 49ers window to remain open and competitive. So it's bolstering the interior offensive line and it's bolstering the interior defensive tackle. It starts in the trenches. It ends in the trenches. That's where it's got to be. The 49ers have invested into their skill positions. It's time to invest all the way into the trenches. And I hope that's what we see coming up here in the future. But I love it. Can't wait to see what we got cooking. This is going to be one of the more interesting things. Uh-oh. What do we have now? Yes. It's official. Liam Cohen has officially been named the Jags head coach. I never thought I would see the day. It's not expected anymore. It is official. So that door closes for Robert Saleh. We have official news, not expected news, official news. So this is, let me reiterate one more time, official that it's happened. So now the domino that we've been waiting to fall goes down. And now we wait. Now I imagine we're going to get a bunch of stuff. Now we might get the Saleh news. Finally, some official news. Boy, oh boy, have we been waiting. Thank goodness. What a saga this turned into. Thank goodness. Official like a referee with a whistle. Now we wait. We wait for our official non-expected Oh, thank goodness. Yes, 2 teams still need head coaches, Cowboys and the Saints, but I haven't heard a single word about Saleh being tied to the Saints job. He did interview for the Cowboys job, but it does appear they are going in a different direction. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. All right. So we wait for the 49ers to make it official. We wait for some other coaching moves to go down, but so far, a good start. And like I said, I've heard positive things behind the scenes regarding the 49ers' intention to sign Robert Saleh as their next defensive coordinator. So we will wait and see until that becomes official. But I feel good about it. So we'll continue to see how it all plays out and all that good stuff. So as you guys know, turn those post notifications on so that when the next breaking template that you see with Robert Saleh's face on it, that means we have signed him officially. So that when you see that, that means we're rocking and rolling for real, for real. All right. So appreciate everyone for tapping in. Smash that like button on this video. How many likes are we at on this video? Let me know in the chat. Did we get over 100 likes on this one? We back to stacking those like goals, baby. Someone let me know. Where are we at? 114. There we go. I'll take that. I'll take that. But we could easily get to 200. But I'll see if y'all can do it. Smash that like button on the way out. And we'll be back on the second something goes live. So appreciate you guys for riding this wild wave with me. But yeah, hopefully we'll get some news here shortly. Appreciate you guys. I'm out for now. Peace. Smash that like button if you haven't already. Love to see you.